All right, sit up straight and tall. Start to feel more rather than less. So you've got to figure out your own way that you get ready to practice yoga, even before you start centering, right? So the allowing part's a big deal. Letting the energy or the awareness of the whole, right? Before you start acting and doing poses. So relief around on the face and the temples, release and the jaw on the inside of the mouth. Hopefully you're starting to recognize the sensation of moving inward, which is different than introspecting. Moving inward as a sensation is more of a simplification, right? Of what's and allowing what's more actually happening and not just your thoughts. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. And then on whatever you're able to feel and allow now, then start more awareness of the body. So hit down through your sitting bones and your feet and start to lift up, bring in some clarity to what's allowed, right? Trying to make, you're feeling your feet, your sitting bones to make like the stools on a chair so your spine can actually become more alert. Broaden across the collarbones, across the back ribs. Feel your breath hit your rib cage, both on the inside edge of your rib cage and its expansion outward. If you can, bring your hands into prayer if it keeps you on balance. I'm not going to do that because it keeps me off balance. Let go of your day and prepare your mind to do yoga. As you notice your mind waning, repose, refeel. Utilize your body. Good. And then release. Bring your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum. It changes things. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. Just because I'm curious, well, a lot of people aren't on screen, but how many people went to the thing on Wednesday? Anyone have any comments about it, or a comment about it, or something that struck you? It was good. So Renee gave a thumbs up at least. It was an interesting conversation. Yeah. So Marianne, you have something to say? Got to unmute though. You got to unmute.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It was obvious to me that everybody's in a different place with their whole process. That to me, that's kind of, it's like, whoa, this person's way over here and this person's way over. It's kind of hard to bring everybody together, but there were some common complaints that just can make everybody laugh because we've all been there. But no, I thought it was great to get that. But yeah, there's a lot for all of us.
Yeah, and the other thing is that discussions like that, there's even in this class, there's a lot of wisdom of living with a lot of different life situations, and we should be helping each other.
Yes.
There's things to learn. That's one of the things that's too bad about not being in person, is that it's easier to learn from each other when you're not just online. But it's an interesting, it's important to know that there's resources even in this class, right, that can give you different perspectives, right? So that's part of what the goal is. All right. So why do you think they say, like, I felt it in my bones, or I'm cold all the way down to my bones? Have you ever thought about that? It's like, what does that even mean, right? Like, why would we say such things? I mean, there's one way of thinking about your bones as kind of like the framing of your house, except bones are alive, right? They're the same material as muscle with a little bit of chemical change, right? They're a little bit more of certain things than other things, right? So they're not just like the framing of the house, right? They're not just holding you up, right? And it's like, but yet, one of the things that I believe is that I watch language sometimes, because I think that, like I've said in other places, I think human beings are intuitive truth trackers, and it comes out in our language. And so when you hear things like feel it in your gut, like, for example, here's a great example, like feel it in your gut, or, let it, your intuition. It turns out that there's a whole bunch of really important neurotransmitters that are in your gut that are the same ones that are in your brain, and that the connection is really important. And they're just finding that out now, but our language has had that in it for a long time, right? And so, like, there are things that our language, although it may not get the facts exactly right, they're reflections of experience that actually really matter, right? And we're catching something in our language that we can tell is true. Like, lead with your heart. Well, it turns out there are like 40,000 of our best neurotransmitters are in our heart, but the connection only goes this way to the brain. And so it's not like I can send those types of impulses the other way. It goes this way, right? And so there's different ways that, like, our language is capturing something that's true about how our overall chemistry and manifestation actually works, right? And we found all different ways to describe it. So I'm thinking about bones today. So sit up straight and tall, and again, notice the clarity on your sits bones. Like, one of the reasons why you're trying to sit up straight and tall is you're trying to, and maybe come a little bit farther out to the edge of your chair if it's safe, right? Is you're trying to feel, and it's harder when you're on a wheelchair cushion, but your sitting bones, right, when they become more alert, your whole spine changes, right? So there are times that a lot of what we're trying to do in these classes is trying to get better alignment in our bones, so our muscular action can be more intelligent, right? Or it's trying to follow the bones, right? So then let your sitting bones be like butter, like just let them go, right? And your chest drops and a whole bunch of things drop, right? And so when it's not just that you're lifting your chest, you're trying to clarify your sitting bones. You're becoming more on them, right? And this gets back to that really deep line. So you're like, now make your sitting bones more like knives. In other words, feel each sitting bone and feel the inner edge of each sitting bone. Right. So when you do that, you start to feel a lift up through your chest. Right. When you clarify, and then release them again and go and let it drop. So just by clarifying your sitting bones, remember there's a line from P.K. Sangar. You're looking for only two things you need for a yoga pose: a center of gravity or a sense of direction. So everyone lean back in your chair. Try to clarify your sitting bones. Right? You can try to push on them. It doesn't have the same effect. Right? Because you're behind the gravity point. You're literally, if it weren't for the back of your chair, you'd be off balance. Right? And because of that, you're not able, activity in your sitting bones does not have the same effect. It doesn't reveal, it doesn't show you a sense of direction as much. So come forward again, change gravity. As soon as you come forward, probably there's more awareness down through your legs. Right? And you clarify your sitting bones and you lift your chest. And so already by feeling balance and a deeper connection to your bones, probably your inhalation's better right now. And your exhalation is better. So it's not just when you feel your sitting bones more that you feel a rise up. There's also an opportunity, and there's a reason why I always say extend from the inner groin to the inner heel. Is because that instruction is going to be slightly more connected to what's happening in your sitting bones. Now, as you get that clarity between your sitting bones, your heels, and your lifted chest, broaden across the front and back ribs. On an exhalation, let a silk curtain or let awareness drop from the base of your neck down to the tailbone. And I say silk curtain because I want the awareness to be soft, not hard. Front of the chest tends to harden. It needs to be balanced by the back. So you're taking inhalations and your rib cage is expanding, which feeds right into your spine. And then on the exhalation, lengthen, hit your sitting bones down, top of your head up, energy down through your feet. Especially on every inhalation and exhalation. And then release. So, you know, I used to think for years and years that, as a little kid in elementary school, they'd say, Ski, they'd want you to sit up straight, fold your hands, and sit up straight and not lean back, because they thought it helped your attention too. It wasn't just that they were trying to control you, which was what I felt as a little kid. Well, come on, I get to sit how I want, right? But in fact, there's a reason why when your spine is not, like, now go back in your chair, like this is more comfortable, maybe how you'd want to watch a movie, but your experience is not going to include your body as much. And especially for a little kid, you need your mind and your body learning in school, right? You don't just need your head, right? But we don't pay attention. And the way we pass it on, I think we get it passed on to us that good posture is a moral issue. It's not. It's an attention issue, right? Now lean forward again, right? So, one of the reasons why you want better alignment and have, quote, good posture is that, especially in yoga, you're trying to learn to focus with your mind and your body, not just your mind, right? And so what does it mean to bring your mind and body into focus? Right, so now you're sitting on your sitting bones, extending from inner groin to inner knee down to the heels, lifting the chest, and then you're coordinating your breath with this. So you've got your mind and your body starting to it's not just that your mind's being aware of your body, you're trying to get the body to show the mind a certain kind of stability. And it's that stability of mind and body that's probably more down the road towards one of the limbs of yoga, which is attention and concentration. Good, and then release. The thing is that one of the reasons why I objected as a little kid when they're all telling me to sit up straight and fold my hands, it felt too rigid, right? Because there's a certain point where rigidity makes you hold your breath, makes you not be able to be a little kid in as much, right? So you got to figure out what the balance is between attention with your body, alertness in your spine, and your mental focus. But if it gets too rigid, you're going to hold your breath. It's going to wane. You're not going to be able to sustain it. Good, and then release. And so you think about just like a little kid, like there's a reason why they have recess. If there isn't recess, man, everyone jumps off the chandeliers, right? I'm like, what look at Lynette Sue Fink smile because she was a kindergarten teacher, right? And so they know if kids don't get to move their body, it's going to be impossible to teach them. As you know, I don't think we're that far from little kids, just so you know. I don't think we're that far, right? And so I want you to come forward. So the beginning part of the class is trying to like get you to like just feel your body. Like it might be a little fun, not just, all this attention and seriousness, right? Which I tend to, part of the weakness of my yoga practice is I'm too intense. I don't think I have enough fun, right? So I'm always trying to get you to not be as intense as me. Like go over off to the side, right? So all this stuff that's just to feel stuff, right? Back and forth and then backing up and over your chair because we're trying to get that feeling of lightness that starts to come through because you've been moving. You don't feel as stuck, right? And then lift up. We're trying to get that sense of levity, right? Not just the seriousness of attention. And then forward again. And back. Just keep, and then I'm just because I want to feel more than just my legs are particularly spastic today. I'm going to take my legs, whatever, and just take your legs farther apart a little bit and just sit and let, so I'm trying to get a stretch more on my groin, inside edge of my legs, right? I just want to feel that for a second. Especially in the beginning of class, right? I'm just trying to feel more of my body, right? Because I want it over time. I want to teach my muscles to follow my bones, right? I want to align my bones and then show my muscles how to act, right? So they're all different. Then release and bring your legs back together. When you get kind of warmed up a little bit, that's actually for your attention, right? So we're just going to twist a little bit, right? Just again, kind of like warm-up twists. These don't have to be so intense, right? Just kind of get it and move. And so you're just trying to add more different spaces to your body quick. So inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. And then release. It's like a touch and go twist, right? Right? You're not trying to crank it. You're not trying to win. You're trying to warm up, right? They're all different ways, especially on a Monday. Sometimes I'm going to go back again. See, I'm just like trying to figure out how I need to move so I can get a sense of lightness. I don't know if anyone saw our newsletter, and then you're going to ground hands and feet. Saw our newsletter that came out yesterday. It's on gravity and levity, right? And I wrote a little piece on laughter, saying that laughter always has both, right? Something's funny because something else isn't funny, right? There's always, think about all the different types of laughter we have. Nervous laughter, happy laughter, joyous laughter, embarrassed laughter, sardonic laughter, absurd laughter, right? Sometimes when things are really crappy, it's your only recourse is to laugh. How is like lifting your chest like a laughter? It opens things up. So I'm grounding my hands and feet. Again, trying to just take some time in the beginning of class to stabilize where my mind is. So my focus can be both mind and body. So I've got my hands on the table, I'm feeling my sitting bones. I'm feeling my feet. I'm lifting my chest. I'm not taking anything too seriously right now. Good, and then release. And so, like this idea that you're you're trying to like utilize your bones, and that's why you're trying to be in alignment more. So I want you to take your arm out straight, right? And so there's a reason, like, so you can put your hands across your knee, I want your hands either on a table or up, down through your, I've got my hands out like this. Okay. So we usually tell you to hug in at the tricep. Well, usually we say lengthen the inside edge of the bicep. Check that out. Right? We're trying to get this muscle to come in. One of the ways we tell you that is to like lengthen the inside edge of your bicep. But when you do that, notice when you lengthen the inside edge of your bicep, what happened, and the tricep comes in, is it kind of makes you want to spread your hands. Can you feel that? And then release. Like just let them poo, right? And so what we're trying to do when we're working our arms and making a connection between the top of our arm and the bottom of our arm, right, is we're trying to get the muscles to follow the bones. So another way we try to tell you to do that is press down through the index mound or the thumb side of the hand, right, while lengthening the inside edge of the upper arm up. But both these are just trying to get the muscle to go towards the bone of the arms, and I hope you're getting a connection to the inner edge of each shoulder blade. And then don't use your arms at all, just let them go like, and watch what happens to your chest and the sense of wholeness, right? So in trying to get your muscle to go towards the bones of your arms, do it again. So as you hug the tricep and bicep together towards the bone, make a connection to here, inner to shoulder blades, but also broaden across your palms. And it's a good time to inhale. Good, and then release. But what's crazy, well, I'll say in a second, maybe crazy is a bad word. It fills me with awe, right? Okay, so I'm going to engage again. I'm going to bring the muscle, but so the muscle towards the bone, I'm trying to get the forearms to also figure stuff out, right? Broaden the palms, that helps the forearms. Lift the chest. Feel the sitting bones. Feel the feet. So I'm going from focus in one place to a sense of whole throughout the whole body. And I'm going to breathe. Good, and then release. So this idea, so for me, I'm going to tell you some of my history. I do it on my hands and knees, but figuring out how to do the arms in dog pose. So if you can put your hands on a table, great. Figuring out how this works, right? So when your hands on a table, and it could be on your legs, it could be on your armrest. It'd be better if your arms were straight. It'd be easier, right? But learning how to like make my arm muscles move towards the bone showed me something really, really incredible. It made me feel my legs more and my spine more, right? Now, good, and then release. Now, these connections, and I'm asking you to go slow with, right? I really think they should bake your noodle, right? Because I actually think that the implications of the fact that you can engage your arms and feel your legs with the same action tells you a whole bunch about how we're wired. All right, so I'm doing it again. I'm putting my hands down. I'm trying to lengthen my arms as I push into the table, pull away from the table, lift my chest, ground my sitting bones, feel my feet. Now, if I overwork my arms, I'll break it up. But if there's a place where I bring enough attention to my arms, I can feel my whole body better. Good, and then release. So kind of want to see thumbs up. Are you getting, when we put the hands down and the arms are working and you lift the chest, hands up if you're kind of feeling your whole body more, right? Thumb, okay. So I want to make sure, I want to go to the second page. It's like, put your hands up again if it's, trying to watch everybody. Okay, so now this seems like such a little thing, but it's not. And I had this senior Angar teacher come up to me in a yoga class in the first probably 5 or 6 years I was doing yoga, and he said something to me in a whisper that I still carry with me now. He said, realize the space between the muscles and the bones. And I was like, what? What the hell does that mean? Except we just did it, right? That's what just happened, right? As we paid attention, not to just how much you can grip, but how to bring the muscle towards the bone and do that as a form of activation, right? When you pay attention to how you line up along the bones, I have realized what he meant was that the space, whether he's talking metaphorically, I don't even think so, but let's just say if you don't believe me, just let it be a metaphor, right? The space between the muscles and your bones connects to the whole body, right? That space is already connected. And I think there's an argument for fascia here, that's probably how it's doing it, right? So again, place your arms, your hands down on whatever, because this needs to be, especially in chair yoga, you need to realize the connection between your arms and legs, right? And it's going to come from connection to the bone, right? So you're doing all these things you're doing and trying to feel your whole body and taking a breath. So now release and don't do your arms. Try to connect to your sitting bones, lift your chest. It still kind of works, right? But not nearly as well. Now activate your arms, the back side of your rib cage, which is what just happened when you activated your arms, right? Like you actually get a greater sense of the whole. Good, and then release. So as a yoga student, I'm trying to teach you how to be a yoga student, not just teach you how to do yoga, right? Especially online. And so that little thing that just happened is really, really important for all yoga poses, okay? So now I want you to lean over and think about all these things that we usually do. I try to lengthen here, open here, hit down to the outside of the back hip, lift the chest. You're trying to bring this arm up, right? Right? And now if you ground the shoulder blade in, notice that makes your bicep and tricep squeeze your arm. And then over, I want you to roll your torso up, lengthen here, right? That's bringing the muscles of your rib cage towards the midline. Good, and then release. Now, if I do this same action and I don't use my arm, I just let it hang, it's not as much yoga, right? So I'm gonna lean over. It's more of a physical stretch, right? Take the arm up, over. Now I'm bringing the muscle towards the bone of my upper arm, of my rib cage, getting down through my sitting bones, extending through my legs. Now, if you're in the same position and let everything just, right? Feel that, you can do the same thing, right? And just like, it's not nearly the same. Good, and then release if you're not bringing the muscle towards the bone. So I've been playing with bones for a long time. Anyone, I don't know about any of you, but I have, like, especially in the winter, I have really bad tendonitis here in my arms, around my arms, and at the wrists. So just take a second, and if you can, and if you can't, if you don't have your hand being able to do, you can just press against some of these bones, right? So I want to grab my wrist, and by the way, this is a great way to calm yourself down, is to actually ground your wrist, right? But I'm going to push on some things, right? And start to get my bones more active. When I push on my own elbow, right? It makes me do some things in my shoulder girdle, some other things, right? I'm going to do the other side. So I'm bringing activation to a bone. Good. And so when we come down and lean on our lap, right? I don't want you just to be unaware of this bone. I want you to actually lengthen it as it's leaning against your femur bone, right? Now I'm going to I'm going to bring my hands together in prayer too. Doesn't matter if you can't, but I'm really paying attention to the contact point between my femur bone and my forearm. Make that more aware. Push my hands together a little bit, lift my chest. Trying to figure out how to include my bones, and then release. So now take your hands on each knee, right? And push back your femur bone back towards your hip socket. Obviously that lifts your chest too. And then don't do it, and feel the change in the loss of clarity when that isn't getting grounded. Ground it again. Engage. Good. So especially for those of, I'm paralyzed from the chest down, but especially for those of us that lack, have compression and gravity from sitting all the time, it's really important to activate the legs more, right? So I'm going to hit back again. And as I push this way and my chest lifts, I want you to try to listen for your bones in your legs. That feeling of stability, right? Good, and then release. Take your hand if you can and grab and squeeze the muscles right below the elbow. And then drop the shoulder girdle and extend through the fingertips, right? So you're practicing how to follow your bones. See, when this gets too flexed, right, you don't follow the bones as much. So what I'm trying to do is I got my hand and I'm grounding this bone against my knee. I'm squeezing my muscle there towards the bone. I'm dropping my shoulder girdle down, and I'm extending out through my fingers. And as I do this, I try to hit down through my same side sitting bone and heel. I'm trying to show my mind that there's a reason why you move towards the midline. Good, and then release and do it on the other side. So for me, I get more effect on one side than the other. But again, I'm going to be using bone to bone, right? Squeezing my forearm, my muscles right below my elbow. Grounding my shoulder blade down, extending up through my fingers. Breathing for my whole body. Good, and then release. Back to pushing in on the femur bones. Lift the chest. Come forward, and instead of just pushing dead weight down as you lean into your lap, right? Make more awareness on that bone of your forearm. Lift your chest. So even though I'm leaning on my legs, I'm also moving away from my legs at the same time. I'm trying to draw the bone up as I'm literally pushing it into my leg, right? Like, so both are happening now. And I'm breathing. So right now, believe it or not, and then release, we're getting closer to headstand. Right? What? Yeah, well, it's beginning to happen. So now, if you can lean forward on a table and get your elbows down, or put your elbows on your knees, right? So it helps. Not only does the table maintain my balance, which I know balance really matters, right? So if you're doing this, you could do this with your forearms on your legs too, if you don't have a table nearby, or on your arm rests, right? But what I'm trying to do here is I got my hands together here, right? So I'm making a connection at the heel of my hands, but I'm trying to lengthen, press down into with my elbows into a table, or right, whatever it is, right? And lift my chest, but lengthen, drop my shoulder blades and try to lengthen my tricep out towards my elbow. So this muscle getting longer, right? As I ground it in my back. Now, as I let the space between my hands help me find my inner thighs and my inner heels. So we're using bone awareness and stability to travel awareness through more of my body, right? And then release. So check it out. Now I'm gonna have to lean back because I don't have as good a balance as most of you. If I try to do the same thing in midair with my hands, right? And try to feel the same connection to my legs without the reference on my bones, I'm not nearly as successful, right? So come down again and realize what you gain when your bones get stabilized and what opportunities are created. And as you are able to realize a greater sense of wholeness through the realization of structure, this is a really good time to breathe. Because now your breath is actually more integrated into your body. Good, and then release. There's all sorts of different bone connections, right? One of them is the connection between your sacrum and your sternum. So your sternum is right here, right? Your sacrum is the bone that goes across from your pelvis across your low back. So like right now, I'm taking my hand behind me and I'm putting my hand right into my sacrum and I'm pushing it forward and I'm watching my chest rise, right? Going back and forth. Your sacrum reflects your sternum, right? So as your sacrum comes in and gets grounded, your sternum will generally rise and then release. So now I'm going to do it from both sides. So one arm's better at it. I'm going to go with my other arm now and push in on my own sacrum and try to get the lift in my chest that comes from pushing in on my own sacrum. There's it going down. There's me pushing it up, right? Down, up, like right there, they're connected, right? So all the times that I've been asking you, now come, release your hand, come forward. And I say, broaden across your sacrum and lift your chest as you lean forward, right? That was me trying to take advantage of the connection between the sacrum and the sternum. Take a couple of breaths. So these types of connections are in play in a whole bunch of yoga poses. So we're going to go and do kind of a version of Trikonasana. I'm going to use a chair. You can use your own chair, right? But what I want you to get before we start going off to the side, right, is actually how to activate not just your muscles. Like, so if I'm up and I take my arm up, right, this would be a version of Trikonasana, right? I'm going to do it on my foot. I feel safer like this. So I'm going to put my elbow on my wheelchair rather than the chair, right? And so as I take my arm up, now watch what happens. Let your torso fall forward a little bit. Like, look how much heavier the pose gets, how much more strain there is. For me, there's strain through here on my shoulder, top of my shoulder. When I open and come into better alignment with this length, right, I can feel my legs more. When I drop and I'll make my muscles strain to hold my arm up, right, I don't feel my whole body as much. Here, I'm getting the bone of my upper arm to go straight into my torso, right? And because of that, and then I follow that and I ground my shoulder blade and lengthen my spine this way, I can feel my legs more. And once I make a connection to my legs, it's a good time to breathe. Good, and then release. So again, I'm just trying to get to the fact that all this extra little precision is actually trying to help you utilize the connections that already, the pranic connections that already exist through your bones, right? They don't have, so if you make your poses too, like, so let's spin over the other way, I'll talk about this in a second. So I'm getting grounded, right? So I took a big inhalation to ground and an exhalation, and then take my arm up. So now I'm like paying attention here to what do I have to do. So to prove it to myself, I take my arm forward and my spine kind of, my chest collapses, right? I can't feel my legs the same way. When I open up and lengthen, now look how I grounded my shoulder, right? That allowed, when I get my bone in my upper arm traveling connected to my spine, then I get to feel my legs more. So I'm going to squeeze the muscle to the bone, the tricep and the bicep, keep the shoulder blade in my body, lengthen out through the arm, lift the sternum, feel the legs. Good, and then release. Come back to center. So again, this idea of following your bones more, right, is actually integral. Well, it's part of the revolution of Iyengar yoga, right? So it makes a huge difference. So we're going to go, and then we're going to go even more into a straight line, because we do this almost every class. Go over, open, right? But now you're understanding. So when my arm comes forward, take your arm forward. Can't you feel your sits bones become like butter? They lose their clarity. So Janelle, make sure you don't, if your arm is sore, be careful, right? So now I'm opening my spine, hitting down through my sitting bones, right? My sitting bones are sharp. My sacrum is more broad across the sacrum to feel the legs, and then take the arm all the way over. Now even more my rib cage has to revolve and turn. If I let it drop, I lose my legs. If I open it, then I can extend. Feel the whole body and breathe for the whole body. Good, and then release. So there's this line that's also incredibly important. Again, I have like 5 lines I'm carrying in my head in almost every yoga pose I do. That prana follows breath more than it follows consciousness. So prana is maybe your life force, or the way things come through us, right? And a lot of styles of yoga, which isn't going to be as effective if you can't move as much, But a lot of styles of yoga like emphasize the breath, the breath, the breath, and then the body kind of secondarily, right? But we want to do it the other way. So you're going to go over, right? And so you're trying to figure out, when I then take my arm up and I'm doing all the things I'm saying, I'm opening, I'm making sure the shoulder stays in and lengthening, right? As a way to feel my legs. When my consciousness is made to run throughout my whole body, my breath can get there better. So take a few breaths, because your awareness. Now, if I drop your chest a little bit. Notice how your breath has to fight. It doesn't get to go through your whole body as well. It stays in your chest. Open again. Extend. Lengthen the spine. Open. Keep the upper arm, the muscle towards the bone. Feel the legs, feel the feet. Now, as you inhale and exhale, let the prana be guided by your consciousness. Your breath touch those places. And then take the arm over. Now breathing gets more interesting now. So I turn and open. Make sure I stay connected to my legs. Breathe for my whole body. Good, and then come on back. So this idea that, and again, these truths seem incredibly simple, which is that, like, I say you're supposed to lift your chest, but it's like, drop your chest, drop forward like this, make your sitting bones like butter, and notice how much smaller space your breath is forced into. Now sit up straight and tall, lift the chest, make the sits bones more alert. Take a breath. It literally matters how you are in your body if you want to breathe well. And it seems so like, yeah, but no, it's literally true. And it's going to be in every pose. So now, come forward on your forearms. And you just like be lazy about it, like, oh, I'm tired, right? And take a couple of breaths here. And you can see what happens to your breath and how, like for me, I can't feel my legs hardly at all when I do it like this. Now I'm going to bring more alertness to it. I'm using the bones of my arms against the thighs, connecting the bones of my hands. Now I take a breath and it travels through more of my body. Now I want you to broaden across your sacrum. And so on your inhalation, I don't want it just to expand your chest. I want it to broaden you across your sacrum on your inhalation. Good, and then release. So what I want you to notice is that when I don't just like pay attention to my breath here, but when I ground my sitting bones and broaden across my sacrum, does anyone get more freedom in the inhalation? I know I do. Holy crimes. My body breathes, not just my lungs. The relationship of energy. Remember, breathing is just an energy exchange. I remember the first time I heard that. I read it in a book from B.K. Sangar. It's an energy exchange and then release. And it clearly is happening on one level, and it happens without me. I mean, my breath actually oxygenates my blood, and my blood goes through the whole body, right? So that makes sense. Thank God that's unconscious. I don't have to be aware of that. But when I include my bones and lean forward and include my bones and stability and structure, my breath does a lot more work than it does when I'm not in alignment. So let's say you're having a tough like moment or part of your day or a tough day, and you need to find, and back up, you need to find your stability, your strength, and your groundedness, because your mind is getting overwhelmed, right? And if you don't have moments like that every week, you're probably lying to yourself, especially when you live with a disability. There's always things that suck, right? And so a you go to reconnect below whatever's bothering you? So find out a couple of practices, whether it's grounding hands and feet, where you remember the stability and structure that can enhance the energy exchange of your breath. Now, if you want to screw up your breath, clench your jaw. You'll find it doesn't nearly as well distribute to your whole body when your jaw's clenched. Anyone clench their jaw when they're stressed out? I know I do, right? And I'm literally denying myself the power of my breath when I clench my jaw. So when I can get into a position where my body's really alert and I use the full dimension of my breath to fill my vessel, a good thing has occurred. Good, and then release. And quite frankly, again, I think it should blow your mind that you can clench your jaw and screw up your breath. It's like, holy cow, right? And then you watch people that are stressed out. You'll see the person that's constantly like flexing muscles right here because they're constantly grinding their teeth, which means literally they're robbing themselves of some of the benefit of their own breath, right? Or the one that's all like this, and I always like being, their eyes really big and being like, hey, I'm alert. No, I get it. I'm good. Right? I got this, right? Again, overdo your eyes and try to get a good breath. It doesn't work that way. It actually doesn't work that way, right? And so part of what it is to ground is to utilize your bones better, to get them more stable. It's not so much about your mind. It's now letting your body teach your mind to shut up, to really just shut up and let the life forces, the breath and the breath actually do more work for you. And so, more advanced poses just make this more complicated, right? So if you twist, let's just quick twist for a second, right? The breath is changed, but you're just trying to figure out how to be in your whole body still. So if I try to twist with my chest drop, guess what? I'm going to hurt my rib cage and my mid back. If I elongate, and then as I elongate, I feel more of my legs and my base. Then my breath, even though it's going through like a crazy water tunnel, right? Winding, I can still get a good breath if I stay connected to my whole body, right? Because the river of prana is going to ebb and flow and turn, and there's going to be turns, right? But that doesn't mean that I can't still, and that's what asana is teaching you, go the other way. So what asana is teaching you is that you can still breathe with your whole body, regardless of the position you're in. If you learn how to utilize structure and bones more for fullness. Good, and then come on back to center. I'm telling you. And I also had a really, really world-class physical therapist show me one time, well, not one time, over a series of, I was having shoulder problems, how much more alive my rib cage needed to be. That my rib cage was as alive as any flesh I had. It needs to, the bones in my ribs need to receive, absorb, go back and forth and release. That's part of what is so important for your breath, is that it doesn't get rigidly held in place by your rib cage, right? So you want your bones to start to open, right? So all these poses that are getting these open like this are actually intended to help your breath, is one of the many benefits, right? All right, Shavasana. Find how you're gonna be. Start that process of going inward, and the focus is not on your breath. It's on the surrender, on being held up, supported. Close your eyes if you haven't, if you're comfortable doing that. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Fall inward into the sensation of support. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. Close them again. And then open them for the week. Good. So most of the people on this call, I mean, some of you might have arthritis, but most of the ailments that we live with aren't ailments of the bones, right? So like, for example, Autumn, you have CP, right? Yeah. So like Autumn's bones don't have CP, right? Her bones are not getting their normal expression because of the spasticity of the CP. But it's like for all of us, the bones actually, for most of us, right, are the way to start to experience a certain kind of stability and grace that doesn't require all the struggle, but it takes a different quality of your mind. It takes your mind quieting down, right? So your homework, should you accept it this week, is watch your bones, right? So even when I just lift my chest a little bit, right? And I'm going to pay attention. Instead of just feeling the lift of my chest, I'm going to try to connect that to like my upper arms and to my shins. And so I start to coordinate different movements in different places with different sensations. And you're going to find that tracking and perceiving your bones is going to make you go into an intangible midline of your limbs, of your body, right? And you're not going to be able to get the same feedback. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a different part of your awareness. And so when you can get your like joints to synchronize and your bones to move, and not just your muscles processing information, but your bones carry most of the weight distribution, right? Then you're really going to start breathing better, right? But it takes a lifetime. All right, hands together if you can. Namaste. Spirit in me, God, spirit in you.